What is your worst experience at an amusement park? Last year Tokyo Disney reopened the It's a Small World ride, and I went on it the day of reopen. It got stuck. For half an hour I sat there with the song blaring away in not English, which was occasionally interrupted by the vaguely threatening announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, the happiest cruise that ever sailed has stopped. I was at Six Flags Over Texas in 1999 on the Roaring Rapids ride. It's a ride where you sit in a round boat thing and splash down a concrete lazy river. Our tube looked a little low, but nothing crazy. Towards the end of the ride, it started to sink. It eventually flipped over. My dad had to swim against pumping water to save my brother, and I had to hold onto a side forks rock for dear life. It took the employees forever to turn off the pumps. One lady was unable to get her seat belts off and died. It was horrific. I remember holding onto the side singing the Titanic song to myself, watching my dad disappear and reappear in the water getting to my brother. However, we ended up getting a settlement, like $100K, out of it, so that was nice. The family of the woman who died got millions. We'll never ride that again. I'm morbidly obese. For reference, I'm about 5 feet and 230 lbs. Before you haul ass after me, yes, I'm trying to lose weight. When I moved out of my mother's house and into a program for autistic adults to become independent, I joined them on a trip to Funtown Splashtown, a combo park in Maine. I was hyped, of course, and I went on nearly all the rides. However, when it came to Dragon's Descent, oof. I had ridden it twice before despite my fear of big heights, and it was a lot of fun. However, when it was my turn, I was so short and so fat I couldn't get myself into the seat. There was a crowd watching too. I could feel the embarrassment build as I meekly asked the ride manager for a stool, and he said he didn't have one. Eventually I gave up, and my friends and I left in defeat. I told them they didn't have to, but they insisted. I was ashamed of myself. That was one of the kickstarters for me to start losing weight. We might go again this year, so I'm working on losing weight now. Hopefully my efforts will pay off. I got stuck at the top of one of those rise up high, then drop you down tower rides because there was a technical malfunction. We were up there for 5 minutes, and they apparently didn't have a speaker installed in the ride at the time, so nobody had any idea what was going on. My dad and I went on a roller coaster a few weeks after he'd had stomach surgery. The attendant pushed down the safety bar a little too hard on my dad, and when the ride was over, his shirt was soaked with blood. The push had ripped some of his stitches. He was fine. I was actually freaking out more, but bright side, the park gave him a free shirt. Me, a lad afraid of heights, got stuck at the top of the Titan for 2 fucking hours at Six Flags Arlington. A friend and I kept going on one of those massive metal rides that spins you around up in the air, with all the seats in a circle facing inwards. We kept circling back into the line to get back on it. Every time we sat down on the ride, the guy operating it had to come and pull everyone's belts down, and then the metal floor opened like a book to give room for the ride to swing around. On the last time we went on it, the guy forgot to pull my friend's belt down and nobody noticed until the ride started rising up and the floor opened, and suddenly people were screaming over the music and the guy turned the ride off. If it had started spinning, she would have went flying out of the seat. The guy was laughing, saying it was a joke, but it put me off completely. I was on a wooden roller coaster with my sister, and it was both of our first roller coasters. She was, and still is, a scrawny little thing, and she's pretty short, so she couldn't hold onto the railing in front with ease. She decided to hold onto the harness thing that comes down, even after I told her not to multiple times. About halfway through the coaster, we reach a small flat area, and she's pulling on that harness hard, and the fucker popped up, like completely opened, so she was sitting there with nothing holding her in. I had to hold onto her for the rest of the ride, but I wasn't a strong kid. IDK how she didn't fly out. We both love roller coasters still though, so Splash Mountain, edit, or at least that really big one may have the name wrong, was Disneyland some 2 decades ago or thereabout. Turns out that, while I'm not good with heights, I'm worse the higher it gets. It went from begging to be allowed to get off to trying to get my parents to perform a very late term abortion. to spare me from it. I feel pity for the people riding with us, honestly. My ex-boyfriend was short-tempered, stubborn, mean among other things. He thought it would be a good idea to take his autistic little brother, 15 years old, to Six Flags. As expected, it was a disaster. My ex is not able to deal with his brother's behaviors. This was the first time I had met his brother. We ended up leaving early and it was awful. I felt so awkward and sad for his brother. I was scared of my ex, so I kept my thoughts to myself. I hate thinking of that day. A wasp got stuck in my shirt while riding Son of Beast at Kings Island. We sat on the brake run for several minutes while it stung away with abandon. Mark me down as stupid. I stood in the line for the submarine ride at Disneyland for at least an hour. When we got towards the front, I realized that those damn things actually go underwater. I'm extremely claustrophobic, so I had to bow out. I guess I thought maybe you stayed above water and were in pretend water. When I used to work at one, every other customer had a death with. They didn't want to follow safety rules, which was really stressful. Also, if someone got hurt on a ride, they could sue the operator as well as the company. At minimum wage, it really wasn't worth it. Guessed, why is the safety harnesses so tight? Me, because I'm whipping you into the air 120 miles per hour on a ride made by a company notorious for killing people. Why do you think? Had a female friend that I was trying to convert into a girlfriend. She loved roller coasters, so when I offered to take and pay for her to go to an amusement park, she happily agreed. But of course, she also knew what I was trying to do, so she made a point to flirt with a lot of guys wherever we went, which of course leaves one feeling helpless and pretty humiliated. I couldn't object. She wasn't my girlfriend. She didn't end up with any of the guys, and she did leave with me. But by the end of the day, I never wanted to see her again. And, I never did. I was on a roller coaster many years ago. It was one of those that you hang from the rail and you have this vest/bar type thing that secures you. The staff go down each side and check that is secure. Well, it seemed locked to me when I pulled it down, but when they did their little check and pulled on it, the thing released, but it didn't just pop up. It was still down over me, but it was now loose, and it took me maybe a minute at most to realize something was wrong. I was distracted by my girlfriend at the time, so my mind was elsewhere. Once it took off, I was realizing this doesn't seem right. At first I moved it a little and got no resistance, so I moved it up a little more and then all the way up. At this point we are going up that first incline before the drop, and I turn around and start yelling and waving to try to get attention. But it's a roller coaster in an amusement park, so everyone is yelling. It's pointless. I'm an IQ nurse, so I started thinking about the possible outcomes. High rate of speed, fall from a high altitude. Okay, most likely massive head trauma, and I will probably be dead on impact or almost dead, but not likely feel much pain. My girlfriend, also a nurse, is freaking out, of course. As we approach the top, I hold her hand, tell her I love her and that I want her to be happy forever. Now we are at the top and I can see all the upside down loops and shit, and I just accept I'm going to be dead very soon. My last thought going over the top was, I really hope she can move on from this. Well, the speed kept me pushed back in the seat, and I was holding on to that seat for dear life, of course. The only thing that almost killed me was actually when it stopped moving suddenly at the end. It took all of my strength not to be flung out. Once it did and started moving back to the station, I realized I made it. I threw up and felt better physically. Mentally, I just wanted off this motherfucker ASAP. I'm glad I didn't black out or give up completely. I was sure I was gonna die, but I still held onto that seat. If I had not, I'm sure when that thing stopped I would have been severely injured. Once at the station, I meet eyes with one of the staff who can see my harness is all the way up when it obviously should not be. We stop and he is right to me like, are you okay? I was just, please help me out of here. I want to go home. I want to leave. My girlfriend is still freaking out, yelling at staff, while I'm in this zombie state of mind, just telling the guy leading me, please get me to my car. Ended in a settlement, so I can't elaborate on where, but needless to say I don't really like roller coasters.